I'm here with a triquel, and it's called I See the Triangle in the digit 4. This is a hat trick and the third goal in the bowl game of securing success with publishing the first edition of my third handbook in a row or series of miniature motivational resources. My focus was on creating a nuance in creative content writing with brevity and clarity, and I call it a succinct style of writing. Chapter 1. Gershom, are you home? Mother Hagar flies home to Witless Bay in Newfoundland in Canada to see Gershom and Hafsiba, both excellent burrowing engineers by profession, because they're amongst the rarest of species called the puffins. The idea of this reunion of the trio was to join Gershom and his newly wedded wife and their cousins, the Manx puffins, or another rare species called the Manx shearwaters, for an amazing Christmas dinner with lots of planktons, fishes and chips. Some fun facts. It's amazing to note that the Atlantic puffins are actually quite popularly called the sea parrots and the little friars of the deep sea. They seem like a rare breed and are very faithful to their mates and rarely change their burrows placed on the steep cliffs. Now, in these interesting episodes, it does feel like as if our dear little puffin family and friends are literally in exile and in the most secluded of habitats, but they probably don't feel like sojourners or nomads, as they very rarely change their homes or breeding colonies. At this point, Mother Hagar decides to take some quality time to share a piece of her heart with her son Gershom and daughter-in-law Hafsiba as they quietly munch some snacks by the fireside of their little burrowed home. And their home had an interesting name etched in gold letters, and it read, "Nestled and tucked away in the hidden recesses of a steep cliff." Reminiscing about the good old days when Gershom was young, they had some very interesting traditions of setting up a manger of straw for the baby Messiah, the real reason for every season. They also had fun with creating moments of value filled with joy, and this kind of fun was crafted by making wise men with hay and hats and gifts to symbolize the gifts of the Magi, and these were gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh. Slowly their conversations take a special turn as there were only 5 days to Christmas, and Mother Hagar quickly starts to share a few culinary delights just to drive forward a few valid points to both their attention. In fact, this special recipe was one of Hagar's personal favorites and just about suitable for the ambience that they were enjoying and just apt for the season. There was no need of an oven, and all that was required was 4 eggs separated between the yolk and the egg white and beaten up so well that the foam of the broth was just about perfect for our little friars. Added to it were dried fruits like almonds, pistachios, dates, walnuts and hazelnuts, along with dried apricots and raisins. But in order to put it all together in a perfect mold, it was necessary to get some honey sugar syrup and mix it well with some of the meringue. It is the egg white mixture, and pour it into a greased tray with good butter and neatly draped with transparent parchment paper. The final process was to put all the neatly chopped dried fruits onto it so that it becomes a thickened white nougat, and tuck it away into the chiller. So while the puffin family relished a hot cup of coffee latte along with some muffins and a slice of white honey nougat, what actually captivated and embellished their thoughts and hearts were moments of value that gave them food for thought. The hard mold of the white honey nougat was perfectly symbolic of hard life's predicaments and unprecedented circumstances could possibly be, and yet, predicaments that could possibly be deterring in nature, but yet feeling undeterred by the icy impact or nerve-numbing impact of such scenarios in life. In fact, it could be like tasting honey from the honeycomb or nectar, although it may, just because of the fact that it's life and it just may not be a cakewalk. Life could or would never be a perfectly arrayed path of primroses or daffodils, but rather a cutwork of beads bordered with frills and laces like the broken fragments of dried fruits. But it adds both to the beauty, texture, and substance of the dish, as we are also molded by our experiences and incidents. So the next thing that the family looks at is their ability to soar with focus, for which they start with a valuable point related to understanding the unique quality. Understanding the unique quality that helps you preserve your rare differences helps you evolve into a better person. In fact, the specific combinations of cold circumstances can add extrinsic value to the mere mirroring of a culinary delight, just about apt for the season. A combination of personality, traits, physical stature, appearances, habits, convictions, beliefs, virtues, values, and strength versus weaknesses also adds to the intrinsic value of the finished product. Outlook, apparently an awareness of how our biases and emotions impact how we view situations and scenarios, and influences our ability to pause or substitute counterproductive and negative thoughts with a positive mindset and choose our response, makes a huge difference in the way we see, perceive, and in the way our outlook is molded. For example, in this instance, Mother Hagar insisted that her family dive into a slice of homemade nuggets that she begets with broken pieces of dried fruits, but creates value through a moment that inspires food for thought that becomes the reason for the season. Broken crayons also color just as well, but that depends upon perceptions. Beauty for ashes is scriptural both in context and nature, but fragments of dried fruits has got much more to do with just decorating the dish. It adds vitality too. Action. The conversations that enable a person to accelerate their progress and advance to the next level determines how successful and proactive a person can be. Reflection. The process of critically evaluating your own behaviors, perceptions, perspectives, habits, preferences, priorities, and communication styles determines whether you can soar above your circumstances or glide through the storms. Flight, fight, and feet, and some fun facts related to that. Puffins are flamboyant little seabirds that can really do it all. And flight, related to flight, flying thousands of miles over and above the ocean for months at a time. A definite yes to the fact that they're amazing people, amazing species that can fly, and swimming underwater fast enough to catch small fishes with a lifespan of about 25 to 35 years. Puffins have been found to have photoluminescent patches on their bills and beaks. Apparently, this ultraviolet coloration is obvious to birds and is thought to be a mark of fitness, potency, and a trait that enables them to signal their sexual preferences as a part and parcel of their sensuality and sexuality, and they utilize it to choose their mates. Feet. Puffins have webbed feet and can paddle on the surface of the ocean like ducks, but when they dive, they flap their wings to produce a forward thrust. Then, in chapter 2, Mother Hagar wants to discuss about the joy of wrapped gifts while unraveling the beauty of the intention behind unwrapping tokens that create remembrances and memories through moments that matter. First gift was a box of gratitude. Hagar was reminiscent and reminded of the good old days with her family when Gershom was young and her husband was alive, and with him they learned together to share and care in the upheavals, joys, and sorrows of life. Then she demystifies and simplifies the complexities behind seeing the unseen. She turns to the scriptures and shows Hephzibah the mystery behind some divine revelations where God opens the mind and eyes of Hagar and shows her a well full of water. She quickly filled her. According to the scriptures, Genesis chapter 21 verse 19. She quickly filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. What had happened to Hagar in the Bible? Overnight, her life turned topsy-turvy. She becomes a refugee, and as a mistress, she has no place in Abraham's household and is forced to flee. But where did this flight from her safe havens lead her to, and how did she cope with her hopeless circumstance? The weight of the backpack on her shoulders, unlike the yoke, if it's ordained by God, seems like a direct consequence of her own follies and foolishness, and this guilt was not only crushing her self-esteem as a woman, but also making her feel extremely uncomfortable, as she felt like the villain in the love story between Abraham and Sarah, his wife. Even Ishmael, Hagar's son, and Isaac's step-brother must have felt as if they were brought to nothing and have had a fatal slip in the laps of destiny. But divine providence outsmarts the circumstances, and Hagar sees the one who sees, and he provides, and is the one who is omniscient and omnipresent. Again, this kind of grief is felt by people all over the world, and it is not limited to minorities or the weaker sections of society, like, for instance, the plight of women and children in Sudan, Syria, Somalia, who are having to deal with despair and shock, but with emotional resilience. Second gift was a box of comfort that had a soothing effect on their minds. Again, Mother Hagar turns the focal point of their attention to the angel, a divine intervention that Hagar from the scriptures had seen, and see how impartial God actually is as he reveals and enables accurate discernment. A box of comfort has certain characteristic features which is beyond just having a soothing effect on the soul or mind. It was quite intriguing that to be able to be of comfort, empathy is a necessary trait. The angel calmed her fears and gives her the reassurance of God's omniscient nature, accessibility in order to be able to approach him at any point in time and from anywhere. Finally, this was a box of gift that expanded Hagar's perspectives and horizons to see beyond an impossible situation. Fun facts: God is never too late, and there are some intriguing biblical hermeneutics to support certain technical facts and God-ordained breakthroughs for those who are really hurting and at the verge of sheer despair. For instance, while Hagar literally fainted in the desert, her breakthrough and resource to nourish her lad's famished soul was just at a distance of 100 yards. Again, in yet another example, Mary and Martha wept bitterly as their dear brother Lazarus passed away, and Jesus' entry was only after approximately 4 days, and that's 96 hours and just about 4 hours less than 100 hours. But even the grave or his festering foul body could not contain the call of resurrection, as his vibrant soul was brought back to life with sheer vitality. Hence, brokenness and despair, or even a foul and festering circumstance, cannot stop what God has divinely orchestrated and planned for those who have been called according to a purpose. We call that destiny. A box of faith. Imagine what would the world be like in the face of adversity and afflictions without a grain of faith ingrained in our being? To meet with the fury of the atrocious and make a pillow out of the fur of lions calls for great faith and above all spiritual discipline. This faith is that integral component and a gift that cements and builds the real metal or character of a real person. What better example can there be for building character than the phrase, a tested gemstone tried in fire? Long-suffering and patience weighs up to fortitude that evolves through the endurance amidst strugglings, sufferings and trials. It's never easy not to feel bitter, even if you were to pray for a gentle temper, like the dew that alights on the plight of petals. Mother Hagar never misses an opportunity to point towards the potter's wheel, in which we can see that everyone has their fair share of traumas and troubles in the blood-sweating, agonizing mold of the potter's wheel. Hence, I quote Sarah Bolton, "Life is full of broken measures, objects unattained, sorrows interturned with pleasures, and losses of our costliest treasures. But ere the height be gained, and every soul has aspirations with memories that awaken vibration of the heart in quick pulsation at the gifts denied, and we are better for the longing, stronger for the pain, souls at ease, our nature's wrongdoing, and through the harrowed soul comes thronging as the striving soul grows stronger. But such lessons are not easily learned, and such discipline is not easily forgotten. Finally, Chapter 3, The Gift of a Meek Spirit, as the family enjoys another slice of their honey nougat and begin to wrap actual Christmas gifts to set them under the tree. They start unwrapping and unraveling the beauty of spiritual gifts too. Hafsiba was the first to comment on the vitality of beauty for ashes, as it is possible to ponder over incidents in the lives of diamonds in the dust. Gershom also pitched in with real-life examples of people who may have felt paralyzed in the lap of destiny, and they see their lives shattered in the flash of a second, but for faith and fortitude, forged together with a gentle and meek spirit, they're able to glide through the storms. This then becomes the true spirit of Christmas that reminds everyone of the fact that there is a reason for the season. Nearer, my God, to thee may indeed be the song most appropriate when faced with crosses and hurdles, but remember, there is no price too great to pay to become a conqueror over the self and to grow into a higher level of commitment, holiness, and intimacy, which is the beauty of life. And we call it beauty for ashes. Mother Hagar was quick to point to a very sacred scripture portion that directed their thoughts towards a meek spirit. In fact, the scriptures highly recommend a gentle and quiet spirit as something highly desirable and more costlier than ornaments, as it outshines the quality of its candor with an aura like none other. So they discussed in conclusion that the biggest and brightest coniferous tree is but symbolic of the gravest mistakes to be shunned at the cross, where the burdens of sin, grief, grievance, grudges, and resentment were lifted for good. This meant freedom from the yoke of bondages with a new yoke of life in the spirit, and hence the three angles of the mind, body, soul, and spirit in sequence with the triangle and the digit 4. Thank you for your cooperation.